Who is the most self-serving, gratuitous, fake politician ever? Good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. The answer, of course, to that question is Nikki Haley. And in this video, watch it to the end, people, because you are going to see Nikki Haley, in her own words, destroy herself, the greatest self-own ever in the history of Twitter. And South Carolina Republicans bring up some past things that Nikki doesn't want you to know about. Let's start with this video when she was for Trump before she was against him.
He didn't become the president by accident. And as much as everyone wants to talk about stability, was he unstable when he passed the tax reform? Was he unstable when we finally hit back at Syria and said no more chemical weapons? Was he unstable when we finally put North Korea on notice? Was he unstable when he said, wait, we need to look at Iran because this is getting to be a dangerous situation? Was he unstable with the jobs or the economy or the stock market? We need to be realistic at the fact that every person, regardless of race, religion, or party, who loves this country should support this president. It's that important.
That's right. We do need to be realistic, and everyone who loves America does need to get out there and vote for Trump. That's right, Nikki. She called that one. And you know what's interesting is she talks about how he's a stable genius, basically. Everybody's thinking he's unstable, but he's actually quite stable and passes good policy. But now we see her going on Fox News claiming that he's a Russian lapdog.
Not at all. I mean, it's amazing to me how weak in the knees he is when it comes to Putin.
Was she actually just talking about getting weak in the knees? Trump getting weak in the knees? Or was that a reference to the back of an Escalade?
Because you look at the fact he has yet to say anything about Navalny's death, which Putin murdered him. It's what he does to his political opponents.
She actually doesn't know that. None of us do. I mean, there's so many mixed reports right now, but she just goes out and boldly claims that this is what happened without any proof to back that up. I'm not saying Putin's a good guy. I'm not saying he wouldn't do it. I'm just saying we don't know.
He's yet to say anything about seizing Russian assets and allowing that money to go to Ukraine. Why would you not want to have those assets seized? It's sitting in Congress. He should be calling for that. He doesn't talk about anything. All he does is go on late night rants talking about his court cases. And Steve, that's the problem. We have Russia sitting there doing things. They're now surrounding the Baltics, which if they go and invade the Baltics, those are NATO countries that puts America at war. We have to prevent more. We've got China doing these cyber attacks. We're seeing all of these things happen, and Trump's doing late night rants about his court cases. He's going to be in court for the rest of the year. We can't be distracted.
Oh gosh, this lady is so disingenuous. The fact of the matter is Trump has to defend himself in the court of public opinion as well as in court. And actually that is the campaigning Trump is doing right now, which is causing him to rise in the polls as we continue to see in this country the justice system weaponized against our former president. Everybody can see this. It's on display. So the most effective thing Trump can do right now to campaign is to call that out. And she knows that. She knows that. And then the warmonger goes on to talk about we need to avoid war. We're already funding the war. We're not avoiding the war. We're not brokering. 2 years ago, we could have brokered a peace agreement in Ukraine, but the Biden regime didn't want to. They shut it down. This is the very same thing she would do because it's all Putin bad, Putin bad, Putin bad. You know, the fact is, I don't trust the guy, but I don't trust Joe Biden either. This isn't some zero-sum game of this person good, this person bad. That's not it at all.
Nikki Haley is not the right candidate to be president of the United States. Nikki is always about Nikki. Nikki changes. Nikki isn't that same person that I ran with in 2010, the one that was supported by conservatives, that shot to the front of the crowd. She squandered 6 years of being governor in this state. How unfortunate that was.
He's right. She squandered the opportunity to govern as a conservative then, and she would certainly squander it now, only it's much worse. She truly is Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels. But she tweeted this out, and this is an op-ed she wrote in USA Today. They actually had the gall to run this. Imagine if a presidential candidate promised to raise taxes on every American. Imagine if he promised to make life harder for the middle class and the least fortunate. That candidate would and should be laughed off the stage and defeated at the ballot box. Actually, I think this is Nikki Haley who did that, talking about raising the gas tax. You guys all remember this stuff? Anyways, but former President Donald Trump is calling for just that. A massive tax hike on every American. The centerpiece of his economic plan is a 10% tariff on every imported good that comes into our country. A tariff is a tax, plain and simple, and a 10% tariff means adding 10% to the price of every covered item. Just like a tax hike on every American, a new tariff on every import would crush the middle class and further impoverish struggling families. Here's the problem with that. We saw this play out from 2016 to 2019. Everybody on the left and the right was freaking out about the tariffs that Donald Trump was going to impose because he was so America first and he wanted to see U.S. steel production, U.S. aluminum production. He even taxed wine coming in from France, and that really caused the liberals to freak out because you can't tax wine from France. And what did we see? We saw the exact opposite. We saw rising wages here in the U.S. and still low inflation, low persistent inflation, and rising wages. That's how you bring America back. You don't see, I actually bought into that. I'm so passionate about this because back at that time when they said, oh, this is going to be so terrible. And I actually like international trade, but I didn't understand. And I think we all should. Okay. Getting goods from overseas is not the end of the world. The problem is when you have such unfair, uncompetitive advantage that's given to the other nations. That's the problem. But the most damning thing that was said in South Carolina is this.
I was serving on county council almost 10 years ago.
Yes.
When we had to tell Nikki Haley by resolution to stop supporting Obama's refugee resettlement program.
That's right. She was supporting Obama's refugee resettlement program, bringing them all into North Carolina against the will of the people of North Carolina. I mean, this lady is bad news. And she's still trying to run around and say that she's leading in the polls. But check this out. Trump loses to Biden or barely squeaks by. I defeat Biden by up to 17 points. How can we fix our country if we don't win? We have to win in November. Rich Barris said, still citing months-old outlier national polls. Meanwhile, new state polls over the last week alone find Nikki Haley losing to Joe Biden in Texas, Michigan, North Carolina, and Wisconsin. In fact, people, it's so bad in Texas, and you can't win as a Republican if you don't win Texas. Trump is beating Biden by +7, 48-41. But if it were Biden versus Haley, Biden is beating Haley by 9 points. We cannot have Nikki if we want to win. But here's the thing, people. I saved the best for last. This is the funniest and worst cell phone you are ever going to see in your life, but I saved it to the end for those of you who stuck with me. And this is wild, but I do want to mention my sponsor really quickly. MyPillow. Oh, it's upside down. MyPillow.com. Promo code Lumberjack for big savings. Go get yourself a MyPillow 2.0 or those Giza sheets. I just tried the flannel ones for the first time. Oh my gosh, they're so awesome. Go get some. They're great. Use promo code Lumberjack for big savings at MyPillow.com. But here's what Nikki Haley tweeted out. And I have to think, if you're this terrible at campaigning, how could you ever be president? She actually tweeted out, 12 fellas down, 1 to go. Somebody retweeted and said, Nikki Haley must be limping today. For those who don't know, there's 2 people who have sworn under affidavit that she cheated with them on her husband while he was deployed. Then somebody else tweeted out something here with a Pornhub logo. Nikki Haley, I knew you were a bad girl, but damn. The media runs cover for Nikki Haley, and a lot of people don't like salacious gutter politics, but with a single tweet, Haley managed to remind the world that 2 men have testified under oath with text and email evidence that they had affairs with Haley while her husband was deployed overseas. It keeps going on. Husband out of town again? Nikki Haley had to be exhausted this morning. Nikki Haley after the 12th fella. I didn't hear no bell. I mean, really, Nikki? I mean, that's just plain dumb. You don't do that. I mean, you had to know where that would go. Or if she didn't, obviously she didn't know where that would go. But the fact that she didn't tells you, how is she going to be able to negotiate with foreign leaders on anything? Anyways, thanks so much for listening to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. Smash that like on your way out. Leave a comment down below and check out my sponsor, MyPillow. MyPillow.com. Promo code Lumberjack. Peace out.